All right, guys, let's see how we can solve this. So right now, our text and our radio buttons work correctly. If we refresh, right? Let's choose white and then refresh. This goes away, but everything else stays. So we have to work on this part right here. How can we do that? Well, it's actually a little bit different than your radio buttons, but let's go. Okay, so this is the solution to the last challenge. And I'm just gonna work on our drop-down menu stuff right here. Okay, all right. So what do we need to do? Once again, let's think about the problem. We need to remember which of these the user selected, right? So that means we have to have a variable that has all of these values. Okay, so let's do const options is equal to document.querySelector all. We just put option like this. Now, we need event listeners, right? Because we're doing on change. Let's think about this. Should we put the event listener on each of these or just on the parent? Well, due to event bubbling, we know that we can put it on the parent. But for this case, we cannot even put it on the child. We cannot put it on each of the child because option cannot detect when like each individual one changes. Okay, so it's really better to just put it on the parent. So let's do that. Const select input is equal to document.querySelector, and there's just one, so I'll put select. Okay, so what do? We're trying to listen for events that changes the value, right? So select input dot on change is equal to what function? Well, let's define it right here. It takes in an event object, of course. Now, like we said before, every time it changes, JavaScript needs to loop through all of the options, right? So let's do that. And again, I'm going to use a regular for loop so I can take advantage of the index. So for that I equals 0, and then what I less than all options.length. And we're incrementing, so I plus plus. Okay, as it's looping through, it's going to check if what? If the element it's currently on, all options.I, it's going to check if its value is strictly equal to what? To event.target.value. Now, how does it know what e.target.value is? Well, that's because since we put an event on change on the select input, right? Every time the child or children gets changed, this event runs. But since we're using event.target, remember event.target returns exactly what you clicked on. Even though the event listener is on the parent, it will return the correct child, like red, white, blue, or green. Okay, so if it matches that, what should we do? Well, we should do session storage.setItem. And then what are we setting? I'll use the key as color index, and the value is I once again, because we want the index that's selected in all options. Okay, now I'm going to show you a new keyword here called break. What does break do? Well, break works only in for loops. And what it does is that whenever you type break, the for loop stops and it moves on. Okay, so it works here because we found something that's strictly equal and we only need one of them, right? So then we should break. If we don't break, it'll be fine for our project. But if you're working at a real company and there's like hundreds of thousands of stuff to loop through, it will actually lag. So it's good practice to use the keyword break. Okay, now before anything else, let's check. So let's go to applications, session storage. If we change to blue, it's index 3, right? Because 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 should be green. Yep, it changes. Now, how do we load it? Well, we already have this document.onload. And if you notice, it's very similar to all radio. So we can do all options at what? Session storage.getItem. And what are we getting? We're getting the color index that we just set. Okay, and that will give us the right index. And then after that, once we have the correct option element, we're going to select its selected property and do what? Set it to true. All right, let's see. Now, I currently have green. The timer is going. I refresh. Counter 0, it's still green. Change it to blue, still blue. change this, type something else here, change it back to red. Everything is saved. Awesome, right? Okay, I hope that was helpful. Let's move on.